there, Nick Powell's publisher of 1851franchise.com. Thank you so much for joining us on yet another conversation with Sylvan Learning franchise owners. Today, we're going to talk about how do you find more family time in conjunction or in connection with owning a franchise, and can you? Which I believe is a really strong topic for today, this being December. As people think about how do I spend more time with my families, and therefore some of the decisions that are made from a career standpoint, buying into a franchise and being your boss tends to be one of those that comes up. So today I am joined by Anthony and Stacey. Thank you guys for joining me. What I would love to do is I'll go Anthony, then Stacey. Tell me your Sylvan story, like put it into a nutshell so that it frames who you are and how you even got into Sylvan in the first place. And then we'll go through some questions.
Okay, so I'm first.
You're first.
Yeah, so I started with Sylvan in 1999. It was actually my then girlfriend, now wife's birthday. So September 13th, 1999. I bought my first center. It seemed like a little bit of a funny birthday present. I don't know that she actually asked for that for her birthday, but that's what she got that day. At the time, we were the youngest owners in the country. I was 27. She was 23. So now, over 23 years later, we've owned from 1 to 5 centers. We've run multiple programs in school districts as well. So I've been a director, a teacher in a center. I've done everything in Sylvan. And along the way, she went from being my girlfriend and me being her boyfriend to now husband and wife with 2 children and one now just months away from graduating high school. So it's been a long time. My older son has been in Sylvan now for 12 years also. So I'm 23 years. My wife's 23 years. And my older son's 12 years in Sylvan at this point. So
awesome.
It's been a long ride.
Look forward to breaking into some of that. And Stacey, what's your Sylvan story?
Yeah, hi. My Sylvan story is slightly different. I was an educator for over 15 years. I was teaching in high schools throughout the States and in Europe and in Canada. I'm here in Canada now. That's where I'm from. And when we had moved back from abroad, I decided that, I'd look to get into teaching, but it could take a while in Ontario. So we started to look at other options. I wanted to stay in the field of education. And I decided to buy an existing franchise in 2016 here in Oakville, Ontario. At the time, my daughter was 6. And it was actually pretty good for me because I went from sort of following the bells of education, my day was very scheduled, to a day that was a little more open. When I bought the center, there were 2 directors. So I could really manage my time however it suited me. I could be as busy. You still have to do the work, but I really had control over when and what I was doing based on my strengths. And I had time to learn to understand sort of how to run a business. Sylvan was helpful in that regard, but I was still able to get my kid to school, pick her up, do all that kind of stuff. So it actually worked out. It was even more flexible than teaching, which, you always think of teaching as good for parents and stuff, but it was more flexible that way. And then currently, since the pandemic, I am now an owner. I have 1 director still, 1 who left back to go back to education, and then I'm an owner operator, so it's slightly different. My daughter's also older. She's 12 now. So I still have that balance. I think there's a little bit more of scheduled time here, but the nice thing is it's a family-friendly kind of business. So my daughter can come with me if I have to work an evening shift. She can get tutoring if she needs to get tutoring, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm still able with the other director to kind of balance it off and find time and manage my time appropriately. So it's been good for me. Yeah.
Stacey, I'll start with you on this one. Being a business owner is much different than having a career. In that a career, you're making obviously money for another business, and every minute that you put into it, obviously you get a salary in exchange for the effort that you put in. But then you go to being a business owner where everything that you do has impact. Like mentally, when you're not at the center, does your brain go off, or is it just different now because it's your baby?
Yeah, I mean, I actively work to control sort of my life that way, to compartmentalize it a little bit, because sometimes I have to. So, but certainly, like I do try to start my morning without, checking my email, things like that. So I do kind of work on that. But at the same time, yeah, that's what I mean. Like your time is your own. Like the work is still there. You always have to do work, right? Whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself. But I think how and when you work, you have more control over that. So I think if you're a person who's sort of a workaholic and you just want to work all the time, you could totally do that in Sylvan if you want to. I think if you are able to, and I think it's a constant exercise, right? To try to make sure that, you've got sort of space for yourself and for your kid. Like I have time to walk the dog. I have time to like do yoga. I have time to take my kid to soccer practice in the evening, right? On the evenings that she has soccer. But then I also on the other times I'm quite busy, right? Because if I'm taking those chunks of time for myself, then I need to make sure that I'm also spending the time on the business as well. Yeah.
Anthony, you've been through quite the journey. I mean, even on the human side of someone in their 20s still figuring out what do you even want to do, at the same time, not having an official family, but building a family throughout this journey too. How has your mentality in the business changed as you've gained more life experience and as you've also, alongside Sylvan, built a family? Like how is your mental commitment to the business? How is it adjusted, and how have you built in, obviously supplementing being a 27-year-old, no kids, to managing a business and having a family?
Yeah, it's a lot of different stages of life, right? So from 20s to 50, not 50s yet, 50. So it's been a journey. I think the thing I probably realized recently, I often hear people talk about work-life balance, and it never really sat well with me. And I didn't know why until maybe all the wisdom of a 50-year-old, that's where it came from, is I realized that when you're trying to always strike a balance, you end up doing less of everything in my mind, right? You're always trying to make sure you don't either work too hard or you don't have too much free time. You're always trying to strike that balance. And I always behaved in a way where I wasn't trying to strike the balance. I worked really hard. I also made sure that I was at every event for my children. I coached basketball for 9 years or 10 years. I coached basketball for 10 years, from when my older one and then my younger son also, since they were in kindergarten. I don't even like basketball. I'm a wrestler. And I was able to create time to coach a sport that I don't even like. But that did align with what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be as a husband and father. And I did want to be there for as much as possible, even if it was an activity I didn't like that much. So when I realized that I'm never going to be able to strike a balance, I knew I'd be continuing to get better at what I'm doing, because as Stacey said before, I'll work hard when I need to work hard. And sometimes there are a lot of times where I have to work hard over many days and weeks, but I'm still able to carve out the time that I need for my family and for myself. And there are other times where I don't have to work so crazy. So I think in general, people should kind of embrace that sometimes you just need to work as hard as possible to get things done. Then you don't feel like you're overworked, because you know that at some point, maybe you won't need to work at this level. And it could be people are away or sick or maternity leave, or things are so great, your business is growing, and you just have to keep putting in the time and realize that to use a cliche, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But I still always carved out the time for the things that were most important. And I think that, again, that's one of the things that has helped me is stop trying to strike the balance. That's the beauty of being a business owner. Stacey said the work's always there. And sometimes when work is there, you have to do tons of it. And then other times you don't. So that when you, as a business owner, you have that luxury, I guess.
I mean, that really resonates with me. I mean, I started our company at 27, no kids, no wife, no girlfriend then. Went through girlfriend, who's now our CFO, and have gone through the journey of having 2 kids as well. Yeah. And so I think along that journey, I think you learn as a human being that if you love what you do, then it's no longer work. And then the work-life balance is no longer a thing because you figure out how it all fits together.
Right.
And I think that's one of the benefits of being a business owner is it is your baby as well. Now what I've enjoyed about this journey, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old now, when they're starting to say, wow, this is cool that my parents are business owners. It doesn't mean it validates it completely, but it's interesting to watch the kids start saying like, this is a part of the family. It's something that's bigger. Stacey, for you, like thinking about like the bigger picture here, what drives you? What part of your family drives you on a daily basis to want to continue doing this and making a difference?
Well, I mean, it's my family. Yes. I think it's important to me always to set a good example for my daughter, right? Like, as a woman, I want to be, out working and doing things that are exciting and challenging to me. And it is constantly challenging. Like, there's always something different coming up, and I like that. I like the intellectual challenge. I like being, having the work to do. Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have work to do, right? Because it is something, if you enjoy it and if you feel a sense of purpose in it, which I think I really do, right? Like, it's still the field of education. I really believe in educating kids. I love seeing like those light bulb moments. The nice thing about being more involved now in the center is that I actually sit at the tables more, and I actually get a little bit of that I was missing from being in the classroom before. So I think, setting a good example for my daughter is important. Being there for her is still important. She came with me here yesterday when I was working in the evening, and she was able to do her homework and stuff like that. And she feels comfortable here, and she sees what I do. Like, there's that open access, right? You don't get that with a corporate job. So she can come in and see what mom does every day and like it or not, but she gets to see it, which is, I think, great. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, but I think it's really just that sense of purpose and that sense of setting a good example for my kids and my family.
Yeah. And Anthony, so one of your children has been in the business or connected to it for 12 years now.
That's right.
What is that like? What are the proud moments, even as a father or as a family person, just seeing someone that is a part of you be engaged with a business?
I mean, over the years, even my children have been in different Sylvan videos too, since they were little. So videos that they don't want to see anymore because now they're both teenagers, so it's cringeworthy for them. But I'll tell you, it's interesting, even in speaking with parents, when there are a lot of students, a lot of juniors who are getting ready for the SAT and the ACT now. They're getting prepared, and my older son's a senior, and we just finished doing all this with him and sending all his applications off. So it's nice to be able to say to a parent that I just love this as a dad. So I've been doing this a really long time as a profession, but I said, all the things you're about to go through, I just went through as a father. And I said, in a few years, I'm going to do it again with my younger son. So I'll help walk you through all these steps. And it's reassuring to a lot of families. You don't have to be a parent to be successful at Sylvan. There are a lot of people who are really successful without having a family of their own. Sylvan is their family because they want to help others so much too. So, but for me, it's been a great experience. Stacey, my younger son was at Sylvan last night also. So both of my boys have been through Sylvan over a number of years, and even just going back through our Facebook page, I see 5Ks that my older son and I have run together with Sylvan shirts on, and gone back to our Sylvan booth at the event. And my younger son's there with a staff member, meeting people. And yeah, it's been great. And I agree with Stacey about as a mother owning a business. I feel the same way as a father. I want to set that example of what something that they can be proud of, also that they can be proud of their dad.
That's awesome. Anthony, go back to when you first decided to go into this business. What was the trigger that made you pick Sylvan?
So I was in the tutoring world before. Actually, I worked for a competitor, and I moved through that organization pretty quickly and really enjoyed what I was doing. My background's education also. I was a certified high school English teacher. I decided that I really like the business of education, that if we do a really good job here, we help more students. That I only make a living if we help children, right? It's not a guaranteed job. We have to do a good job. Everything I say in an office actually has to happen for the students. I loved that idea. So I just knew at a pretty young age that I wanted to do it on my own. So we looked at a few different options. I considered moving. I live in northern New Jersey. We considered moving to different areas. And then my wife called Sylvan's corporate office and asked if they had any territories for sale at the time in northern New Jersey, and they didn't. And the conversation almost ended. And someone in franchise development said, "But we actually have a resale, like you, Stacey. We had a resale available, and it was only like 20 minutes from our house, from my house." So she called me and said, "Here's where the center is." And I finished work that night. I drove straight to that location, and it was an old, dumpy center that had been around forever and wasn't doing much. And I said, "It's perfect. It's exactly what I want." And that's kind of how it started. We found this little center that was not doing great. It had less than 10 students. It was really run kind of as a part-time retirement position for a gentleman at that time. And he loved what he was doing, just with a real small number of students. But I knew what we can do in that area. And we did that many times over in different locations as well.
Yeah, it's cool to hear about the journey, because obviously you've been through so many different layers of Sylvan, both as a on the personal side, and then on all the evolutions that Sylvan has gone through as a business. And if you think about humans and careers in today's world, the job hopping is so frequent that to stay committed to a business obviously shows a tremendous dedication to the company and what you have built for you and your family. Stacey, what about you? What was the trigger that made you say Sylvan made sense?
It was a little fortuitous, a little bit similar to Anthony. That was, we were looking for something in education. My husband actually found the listing for the resale. We had looked at some other competitors as well, because I did want to stay in education. So this was sort of the natural choice, I guess, to get into the tutoring market. And I felt like I could do a really good job for kids. And that's very similar to Anthony, right? Like, I also have a high school English background. And I really, you see when you're in the classroom, you do the best you can to diversify and differentiate instruction and reach all those kids. But, there's always some that you just can't give them the time that they need or whatever. So that motivation, drove me. But definitely it was sort of, the Sylvan came up available. It was, we looked into it deeper. We started to research the brand. And it wasn't a no-brainer to go with Sylvan being in Canada, because there are some Canadian brands similar. But what I liked about Sylvan was just the strength of the pedagogy behind it. Like, I understood that, and I thought they were doing the best job on the market for it. They had evolved as education was evolving. So I really believed in that. Also, I do think the brand had a really good presence. And I liked what they represented. And of course, then the center that I was looking at was actually profitable. So that was good too. So all of those factors kind of played into it.
Yeah, there's definitely a consistency with Sylvan franchise owners that it's one of the few businesses where you can be super passionate about a category that you can build your career in and be a business owner. Obviously there's some, but some people might say, man, I've always loved grilling burgers, and they buy a burger brand, but it's just different. Like, here, there's such a core at the impact that you guys are having at the community level that there's a bigger thing here on the passion play. Anthony, there are plenty of franchise owners, and this is part of how the industry works, that buy into a business expecting to flip on the lights and just make money. I'm sure you're going to say that can't be farther from the truth, but what advice do you have for them? Obviously, you have found, and maybe balance is the wrong term, because you said it's not about work-life balance. It's about just probably the pursuit of happiness more than anything. But how have you committed the time into it? What would you say to someone that's looking at the business that's like, how much work do I have to put into this thing?
So I think if you're trying to run from something, this is not the place to be. A lot of people, they think they want to do something else. They want their own business. They look at different franchises. You'd mentioned about flipping burgers, or some people say, "Oh, I want to do something meaningful. I want to get into education." And then you start talking to these people, because corporate has asked me over the years, and they've asked other people as well, but will you speak with this potential franchisee? And I'll ask them some questions like that, like, why do you want to be your own business owner? And they'll say, well, I'm tired of the bureaucracy in business, and there's politics and this, and they're running from something. So I think if you're running from something, it's probably not a great idea, because you're not going to find happiness immediately here just because you're not there anymore. You have to be willing to work really hard. For me, the only way to do this is to work really hard. Like I still, in my mind at this age, think I will outwork anyone. And I know other people have figured out ways to not do that, but for me, that's what has kept me successful all these years. Now, I don't always outwork anyone, but at times when necessary, I will always outwork anyone. And there's some people who are trying to figure a way to work way less. I don't think it's a good idea to go into business to work less. You may find that, or some people may find that, but it's not a good strategy to go in there. You should think you're going to work more. And I have sold centers, and some people were successful and others were less successful. And the less successful ones are always the people who worked less. Like, you just need to think, if you're going to go into it, be ready to work. And then you figure out that, again, for me, not so much balance, but that happiness in what you're doing, and to prioritize at different times, like what really needs to be done now. And there are times where my family needs me way more than my Sylvan family does, and other times the business needs to be thriving so I can help pay for the things that my family may need as well. So I think for any business, and the exciting part about this one, as you mentioned, is we get to help children. So the harder you work, just the more children we help. So I feel that way about the money we earn too. Like, I only make more money, as I said before, if I'm helping children. If I'm not helping them, then we're making less money. So, and it's a pretty cool way to make a living, right? Like, figure out a way to help more children and make more money. I like it. I've always liked it.
I love everything you just said. I just want to call out two things that you just said. One was don't run away from something thinking this is going to solve it. I think it's tremendous advice. There are definitely businesses where you're more so buying a job. Some of the ones where you are operating a truck and you are doing the work on the home service sector. But this is not one where you just run away from your problems thinking that going into business is going to solve that. You almost have to rework your core before you go into a business like that. I think that's tremendous advice. And I still think, like, what you're saying is, like, even a family is work. It takes effort. You can't just start a family and say, I'm going to sit back on weekends and not play with my kids. And the reality is that I don't like basketball. But I coached it for years because I wanted to work on my family. And right. It's more so that work ethic might be the wrong term, because I think too often it's put in a box as a bad thing when you have a tremendous work ethic where you are working on everything that hits your life. But it's the ethics side, that when you apply ethic and you work hard in your business and you work hard on your family and you work hard on your health, it's just your approach. It's the way that you value your life and how you're approaching it. Stacey, anything you want to add to that? Like, what is your approach from an ethical standpoint when it comes to hustle or grit or work?
Yeah, sorry, I know it's a little glitchy on my computer, so hopefully you guys hear me okay. So yeah, okay, good. I don't know. For me, I've always worked hard at whatever I did. I don't have that attitude that working hard is a bad thing. I do think that's where a lot of meaning comes into life. And I think as long as you have that sort of sense of purpose and that you believe in what you're doing, I think that's important. And I do agree with Anthony that the business is not I mean, it's work, and there's ebbs and flows, and times when you need to sort of hunker down, and other times when you can kind of chill a little bit more, right? And I think some of that is by choice too. If you want to, how much of whatever you make do you want to give toward like having a director or another director? Do you want to be an owner operator? Do you want to, that kind of stuff? So those are some choices you can make as a business owner. But I think what I love about it is I love why we do it. I love helping kids. I love that I get to work with professionals. Like, I like that it's a professional business and I'm working with other professionals, like working with a bunch of teachers who are doing this oftentimes outside, well, more often than not, outside of their regular teaching job on top. So they're doing this in addition. You meet like-minded people, right? And you meet good people. And then you meet families and you can help them. Some are more challenging than others, like anywhere you go, right? But I think like overall, you're helping. I just really believe in helping people, and I get a lot of personal satisfaction from that. And just it makes all the hard work worthwhile, right? Really.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great way to put it. I mean, like every time that you're putting a second into it, you're getting something back emotionally, financially, or from an impact standpoint on what you're providing to families in the community. Stacey, I'll start with you, and then Anthony, I'll close with you. Just final thoughts. I mean, the topic that we started with is how Sylvan allowed me more time with my family. And what I'm hearing out of this, it's not necessarily about it's more time. It's more so it's the mental freedom that you're in charge of how you manage your time. Stacey, anything that you want to add to anybody that's thinking about this business and it's probably like it's got to one thing that's going to weigh on them is going to be, can I have enough time to live my life and own a business? But any final thoughts or advice you have for someone that's thinking about the business?
Yeah, well, the short answer to that question is yes, right? You can totally run a business and have your life and all that. I think so. I think you kind of, when you come to it, you come with your own set of skills and your own goals and all that. And I think that you will, if you follow that, if you follow your goals and your passions and your vision, you will find a way, if you really care about it, and you're not running from something, as Anthony said, and if you are running from something, fine. Maybe you're running from that to this, as long as you're running to this, right? And this is something that you want. It's not going to be like, just something where you put your feet up and you leave it be, right? I mean, I don't think there's no easy fixes in life, period. I don't believe that. That just isn't fundamentally part of my belief system. So, I don't I don't gamble or any of that kind of, I just don't believe in that, right? So I'm like, but as long as you want it, you'll be able to find a way for it to work. And I've had to segue, right? Like I had it pretty sweet. I had 2 directors. I could manage my own time. I could be there as much as I needed for my kids and just work from home a lot of the time. I would come in several times a week. And then now I've had to segue and be more involved with the business. And so I am a little more scheduled. I've had to change how I approach that. But at the same time, it's been very good in lots of ways too. So I think a lot of it is mindset. And I think a lot of it is, the quality time you spend with your family, right? You value it more because you have, like if you're not just shuffling them from here to there, you're there when it matters, right? And you can be there when it matters because you are in control of that to a large extent. I mean, as much as you probably can be with a business, right?
It's great.
You don't have to ask for a day off. You need a day off, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah, the statement of you're there when it counts. I mean, it definitely. Look, I think both of your journeys, it puts it into perspective. I mean, Anthony's probably, you would say that life has moved very fast since going from 27 into this business to today. And it probably makes you appreciate or be grateful for the moments that you're able to spend too. Anthony, final thoughts, any advice that you'd have for anybody that's thinking?
I love what Stacey said. You're there when it matters. That's it. Like just being off on weekends doesn't mean you're really there for your children or child, right? I didn't miss a school concert from kindergarten through all of elementary school and middle school. I didn't miss one school concert, right? And I mentioned all the things I coached because I can move my schedule where I needed to, right? So I that's it. Like forget the balance, like be there when it matters. And I feel this career that I've had has helped me be there where it matters. And if it's with my family or my business, I'm always where it matters.
And now you love basketball too.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
No, it's awesome. I mean, like this is this is bigger than just franchising. And then you land in the place where you feel passionate and strong and proud of what you do. It also makes life count too. And I think that's one of the benefits of being a franchise owner or a business owner is if you play the cards the right way, your evaluation of what equals happiness can be even stronger. And both of you have shared that with our group today. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it greatly. Happy holidays. Enjoy your time with your family. And I look forward to seeing your future Sylvan stories. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks, Mike.